Hey, welcome back. Before we start drawing, I want to show you around this area. First, this street is known as Haji Lane and there are a lot of beautiful shop houses here. So in today's lesson, I want to show you what I look out for when I'm on location sketching, what are the elements that are interesting to me, what are not. So let's go. Shop fronts and stores can be nice to draw when they are selling really interesting stuff. Now, one thing to take note of when sketching in front of shops is not to affect the businesses of all these shops. That means do not sit in front of their entrance because it's going to block customers from going in. And these shops, they are not open yet because it's still quite early in the morning. And if I were to sketch in front of their shops, I would definitely check out their opening hours so that I can leave just before they open their shops. When I'm sketching, I try to look out for things that are out of the ordinary or things that I do not usually see. So for example, this shop house in front of me, this has a lot of plants. Now compare that to this shop house on the right side, which is mostly rectangles and vertical lines. So for me, I would find this more interesting to sketch because there are a lot of elements and there are a lot of overlapping elements. For example, the plants are in front of the chairs are in front of the shop front. So when you have all these overlapping elements, it gives you a sense of depth. If that scene is too complicated or intimidating for you, you can just zoom in to certain areas. Do not draw the complicated scene if you do not feel that you are up to the challenge, but instead practice by zooming into little elements. For example, some of these decorations that are hanging in front of this shop house. Here's another interesting shop house because of the colorful flags that are in front. And there are many overlapping elements as well, so the flags overlap the grills that are behind. We have a bicycle parked in front as well, and all this overlaps the shop front. So let's take a look at the street. This is a one-point perspective street. That means all the diagonal lines, they are going to this point somewhere here. You see all these diagonal lines, they converge. So this is actually a one-point perspective scene. Now when you want to draw something like this, do not place the vanishing point right in the center, so it's going to look a bit boring. So try to move the vanishing point to the side. For example, here I'm moving to the side here. By changing your position, you can move the vanishing point, and when I move to this side here, I can see more of the shop houses on this side, and when I move to this side, I can see more of the shop houses on this side. Windows can be fun subjects to draw. You can see what's inside and get an idea of what that shop is selling. And this particular window, I find it quite nice because there are air conditioning units outside, so they are in perspective and you can sort of practice your perspective drawing. Let's take a look at other windows around this street. So these two windows are closed, they are flat on. When I draw windows, I try not to draw them flat like this. I would usually stand at an angle so that the window is in perspective, so that I can get a better sense of the shape, the dimension, and the depth. Even signs can be interesting. Haji Lane is a very touristy place, so there are many tourists and people. When you're sketching in a place with a lot of people, always be careful about your belongings. Do not lose them. Do not lose them to pickpockets. Here's another nice scene to draw. I like how the signboards are attached to the side of the walls and how they overlap one another. Especially if you were to move to this side, you can really see how the signs overlap. But on this side, I can see more of the signs and I can see more of the walls. There are also people in the scene. When you have people in the scene, it will naturally make the scene look more lively. Safety is really important when you are sketching on location, and more so if you are sketching in a new place that you have never been before. There are people, there are traffic, there are different conditions that you have to look out for. Say for example, you want to sit at that road curb there to draw this scene. That is a road curb and this is a live road, so there are going to be cars, motorcycles going past and they may not see you, so that is also another element of danger. Safety should be the #1 consideration. I cannot emphasize it enough. Let's take a look at another scene. Here's another wonderful scene to draw, mainly because there are a lot of contrast going on. So I have big versus small, I have front elements, the foreground versus the background elements, I have diagonal lines versus vertical lines, I have people on the street. So all this contrast, all the movement makes this a nice scene to draw. I have seen people sitting on the road curb there to draw before, and it's quite dangerous. 2 points because of the traffic, and the other point is this building is under construction, so there may be things coming out of the window. That is something to take note of, especially when you're drawing near construction sites or buildings under construction. This shop that is under renovation used to be owned by someone that sells really beautiful lanterns. Then it was sold to a restaurant and now it looks like it's under renovation, so I'm not sure what this shop is going to be in a few months time. And I can remember all this because I drew those beautiful lanterns before. The street behind me is App Street and there are lots of beautiful shop houses as well. Almost every shop house here looks a bit different compared to one another, so they make very good subjects to draw. And that particular shop there, you see that's a carpet shop, so they sell very interesting and beautiful carpets and lanterns. If you want to draw in a shop like that, you would have to ask the owner. I think sometimes they can be quite welcoming of sketches, you never know. Generally speaking, I find that shop owners are more welcoming to sketches than photographers. This is also a very nice potential scene to draw. I like the contrast between the old shop houses and the tall buildings behind. And there are many cars parked along the roadsides. Those can be a good challenge, a good practice if you are not comfortable with drawing cars. When I'm at a new location, I will generally walk around to get a feel for the place first and also to scout for interesting places to draw. So for example, if I'm standing at this road junction here, this could be a potential scene. Now in this scene, I will place the emphasis on the street and also on the shop houses on the left. Now if I were to move my position to this side here, now this shop house in front of me, it fills most of the frame, and now this shop house in front of me becomes the emphasis, and the shop houses in the background, they become the side story. The building that you see in front is the Sultan Mosque. This is the most iconic building here in Kampong Glam area. Haji Lane and Arab Street, they are also part of this Kampong Glam area. This scene behind me is the very classic postcard scene, so if you were to draw the same scene, then you are definitely going to get a good picture, a good sketch. However, you can actually move to a different location to draw the same building, which I'm about to show you. So this is the same mosque, but from the alley that is right behind the shop houses on the right side. Even if you are drawing the same subject as other artists, you can always move to a different location to draw and you will be able to get a different viewpoint. When I'm sketching on location, I always try to anticipate what's going to happen next. For example, if I were to sketch this building that's right behind me, if I were to move my eye level down like this, because I want to sit on my portable stool, I will anticipate that there is going to be a vehicle that's going to be parked right in front of me, and that vehicle is going to block everything. So I will change the position, or I will maybe stand and draw this view so that even if a vehicle parks right in front of me, I will be able to still see the building. Today's video was filmed on a very cloudy day. This is the list of my favorite of days because there's no light and shadow. It's very difficult to get the contrast that I want, the contrast of light and shadow. So the best days to draw would be sunny days, and if it's on a cloudy day like this, wait for the sun to come out, take a photograph, and then work on your sketch later on at home so that at least you have some light and shadows to color. Here's the Sultan Mosque up close. Now the view that you choose plays a very important part in storytelling. For example, if you were to go really close to the mosque, to the extent that you do not see any of the shops, it's going to isolate the mosque. But if you were to actually show the shops, it will show the mosque in the neighborhood and show people what's happening around the neighborhood, which I think will give more context to your sketch. So whether you want to draw a close-up view or a wide view, it really depends on what story you want to tell and what you want to show the audience. When you are visiting a place of worship or a building of religious significance, always observe the proper etiquette, such as your attire. At this mosque, for example, you are supposed to take off your shoes before you enter the praying hall. I've actually drawn inside the mosque before, and there are certain areas and things that you cannot draw. If you are in doubt about things that you can or cannot draw, always ask the people around, because places that are a bit sensitive, you should always be a bit more cautious. Alright, I hope you have enjoyed the short walk around with me and around Kampong Glam. Just to recap some of the points that I talked about earlier, so when I'm sketching on location, I try to look for contrast between light and shadows, diagonal lines versus horizontal or vertical lines, foreground elements over background elements, overlapping subjects, and when I'm actually choosing a specific spot to sit down, I try to anticipate what's going to happen, whether or not that spot is dangerous, whether there are going to be people walking past me a lot, or if there's going to be a car parked in front of me, or whether or not the weather is going to change. And sometimes if those situations are unavoidable, I will make it a point to draw faster. For example, if the weather looks like it's going to rain, I will draw much faster because that's really unavoidable. But for things that are avoidable, like do not sit below a coconut tree, those are actually avoidable. Those are safety precautions that you should pay attention to. So that's all for this lesson. In the next lesson, I'm going to teach you some basic techniques to drawing so that even if you do not know how to draw, you will still be able to learn from those techniques and use those techniques, apply those techniques throughout the lessons that follow. So thanks for watching. See you in the next lesson. Bye!